What is the best technique to manifest whatever it is that you want? And to be honest, the answer might surprise you, and some of you might already know this. So let's kind of get into it, because this video is going to cover this whole topic. I see so many people that are on the beginner stages of their journey, and they're always asking, what's the best technique? And I see them asking others, what did you use? What affirmations were you using? And it's such a very basic way of looking at the law of assumption, and I want to save you guys time. And this video is to save you guys time. It's to kind of give you guys a little more knowledge, so you leave this video knowing more than what you came in. And especially if you're new to the law of assumption, this video is going to help you big time and save you guys a lot of time. So that being said, as you already know, I'm Michael from EmbodyTheState.com, and all I ask from you guys is, if this video gives you anything of value, to hit that like button, so therefore it reaches a greater audience, so it can help others the same way that it helped you. And with that being said, let's get started. So when it comes to the quote-unquote best technique, right? So many people I see them chasing these techniques. They see a success story on social media, and right away, they're all hounding this person. Oh my God, what affirmations did you use? What did you say? Please tell me your process. And then they think, oh, if I copy that, it's going to work for me. And that's such a beginner and basic way of looking at the law, right? And, I don't blame you guys. It's part of the journey for majority of people that kind of figure out manifestation. They don't dive into the books. They don't really study the law deeply, and they're more so just watching content. And because of that, they're limiting themselves. And when you have a limited perspective and understanding of the law, and just really how simple it is, you're missing very key points. And some of those key points are techniques are like, none of them is more powerful than the other, right? And some of them are going to work for you more than they're going to work for someone else, right? For example, some people love affirming, right? Some of my clients, they tell me, oh, I hate affirming, right? But some of them love it. And some just love doing inner conversations. Some would prefer to do visualizations, whether it's pictures or full-on scenes, right? And to be honest, none of them are wrong, because how can I tell them that, hey, you should be using this technique, because this technique's better? It makes no sense. How can I sit here knowing the law and then be like, oh, you have to affirm this, right? And I always tell people, if you see any video, like any person that tells you, especially if they want your money and they're telling you, if you want to manifest your SP, say this affirmation. And this might hurt some feelings, and I say this with love, but if you see someone saying this, run away. Right? Because right away it shows a lack of understanding of how the law of assumption actually works, right? And I don't think people mean to mislead other people, but in this community, especially when you're taking money from people, I think it's our job to be responsible as teachers, right? And realistically, it's like, you can tell people, hey, and trust me, majority of my clients come to me from so many other places, and they come to me from places of hurt, whether it's, they discover the law because they're hurting, whether they've been working with whatever coach, it doesn't matter. But I've worked with so many people around the world, and I continue to do so. And, one thing that they all have in common is that they all come to me with this very basic level of understanding. So by the time they I call it the factory, right? When they kind of walk through my factory, it's like they leave the door and they're like, I guess like a well-oiled machine. They understand, wait a minute, this is actually easier than it is. And that's the truth, and that's why I'm making this video, right? And I tell people all the time, run away from anybody, whether it's a friend, a community member, or someone leaving a comment, a coach, it doesn't matter. But if someone's telling you, oh, if you want to get your SP, you have to say this, or if you want to get that money and whatever, say this affirmation. It doesn't work like that. That's the thing. It's like, I tell my clients all the time, it's once you start studying the law in your free time and you kind of dive deeper into it, and you don't have to, right? I love reading. I read daily for many hours, right? When I first discovered the law, I spent between my free time, it was like between 6 to 8 hours of just reading. I just read. I didn't have YouTube. I didn't have all the options available that you guys have now. And therefore, I was kind of lucky in a sense, because I didn't get this bad information. I didn't have to waste time. And I understood early on the importance of awareness, as Neville, like consciousness. That's why Neville sometimes calls it the law of consciousness. So when you realize a technique is just to be conscious of something, right? When you realize, wait a minute, it's not the technique that matters. It's where that technique takes me. And eventually you're not going to need techniques, which we'll get into later. But every technique, think of it like, imagine there's a straight line of just a fleet of cars, and it's like your garage. Like, let's say you have a mansion with like a bunch of cars lined up, right? They could be, you know, supercars. It could be McLarens, Audis, you know, doesn't matter, Rolls Royce, G-Wagon, Ferrari, Lamborghini, whatever cars you want, just imagine them. And each car is kind of, in a sense, they're programmed to the same GPS location to get you to the same destination, right? And the destination is the wish fulfilled. And when you realize, okay, if the end goal is like the destination is the utmost priority, then it doesn't matter what vehicle I take there, right? Maybe I'll enjoy driving a Rolls Royce more because they're, you know, a nice luxury car, and the suspension is great, and, you know, I'm not going to feel every bump on the road, right? And, you know, for me, like that, the Rolls Royce for me would be just acceptance, right? And the acceptance you actually learn through using techniques to enter states, because eventually you realize, wait a minute, I don't have to do techniques really anymore if I understand what it's like to enter a state, what it's like to accept new facts, right? And that's the beautiful part. It's like, and it doesn't take long to get there, to be honest. Like, I'm talking days, a week, whatever. And you can, like, once you practice entering states and using techniques to get into states, you realize, wait a minute, the end result is the most important part. And I realize I can get there without having to visualize, without having to affirm or whatever. I can just make a decision. And when you're able to do that, which doesn't take long to get there, that's when, for me, it became much more fun than it already was. Like, I tell people that I work with all the time, and I show them my process on our calls. I give them multiple examples of how I enter states, and I tell them, hey, if you like this, feel free to use it. And if not, then use your preferred way, and as long as the end result's the same, good. Therefore, there's no best technique, right? And, you know, I just make sure I explain that, okay, it's as soon as you understand that you want something and you can make that decision that you have it, that's it. And of course on calls I go into more detail, but it becomes easier with more understanding, is the best way to explain it. When you have the full understanding of who we are, of creation is finished, what our body is, you know, what exists within us, what we're connected to, these are all things that play a vital role for us to actually be able to accept things like that, like without hesitation, without logic getting in the way, right? And a lot of the times we just look for, quote unquote, the best technique. And we're over here like, okay, is this affirmation gonna work? Is this, if I visualize this hard enough, it's gonna work? And it's not about effort. It's not about, you know, forcing yourself to do things when you don't want to. There is no such thing as the best technique. And that might bother some people, but that's a fact. How can I tell you if I prefer just accepting something because I dislike having to sit there and visualize, or, you know, having to have like a whole minute inner conversation, because to me it's like, it's too much effort. You know, when I can just decide something, why am I going to spend 30 seconds, 10 seconds, 5 seconds, a minute having conversations or visuals in my head when I can just make a decision, right? And that's my preference, right? But for you guys, if you enjoy inner conversation, if you hearing your SP tell you, I love you, I can't believe we got back together, this is amazing. And it makes you feel great. It makes you're able to accept that as a fact, which in return unlocks the emotion, right? Because remember, it's the conviction, the knowing, the acceptance that matters, right? That's what you should be aiming for. But the emotion is just a byproduct, right? It's a product of the belief. And that goes both ways. When you're feeling bad, it's because you have a belief that allows you to feel that, right? Emotionally, I should say. But your concern should be, like, your focus should be, hey, is what I'm doing getting me to accept that I have something? So if you're single and you're trying to manifest an SP, whether it's an ex or just someone new, when you do whatever technique you prefer, if you affirm and you say, you know, just once, like, I'm so loved, or thank you, whatever you want, right? Saying those things actually make you contemplate and, more importantly, accept that other reality, right? That other probable reality. Because remember, creation is finished. Everything's existing now, right? The fact you want something means it's already created and existing. It's waiting for you to kind of take it and to experience it. And if your techniques that you're using is not putting you in the experience, if you're not able to experience that moment that you get your desire, or fast forward in linear time of like, oh, what if I had them for months already, you know, and then I just remembered, like, if it doesn't get you to those points where you start just accepting and identifying with having something in any form, you know, even if it's a memory, right? With the people I work with, I even tell them, hey, you can use memories too. Like, you can look at things as a memory. And That's actually a video I might make actually in the future. Actually, it's a really good topic that I would love to share with you guys. But anyways, moving on. It's all about the destination, and is the destination the place that you arrive when you do a technique? If you're affirming and you're just saying, I am loved, he loves me, she loves me, we're in a happy, loving, committed relationship, and blah, blah, blah. Like, no one talks like that, right? That's why I don't tell you guys use this affirmation. Like, to me, that's a joke. Like, why would I, tell you have to use this? Like, it's insane. Knowing what I know, I would be insane to tell you that. So instead, your job is to ask yourself, is what I'm doing putting me in the consciousness, in the awareness of having my desire? Yes or no? And if the answer is no, then ask yourself, does it make sense to continue doing this? And in my opinion, the answer should be no. And that's what you should be saying to yourself. So therefore, hey, let's try something else. Okay, maybe inner conversations. If I hear my SP, or if I hear something, whether it's a friend, congratulate me on my financial success, or someone close to me that I recognize their voice tells me, congratulations, holy crap, I can't believe you're making like $30,000 a month minimum. Like, that's crazy. And you hearing that from them really makes you feel like proud and abundant. Remember that pride and all that abundance and that love or whatever you're trying to experience is the byproduct of the acceptance first, right? So can you accept, with conviction, claim that you have something, that you are someone that has the thing? In other words, can you decide that you're that version in that moment, for just a split second, and just really experience that fact? And if so, good. That's the techniques you should be using, right? And when you're doing that, great. Your only job now is to keep it fun. It's to kind of return to it playfully. Have fun with it, right? Don't contradict the positive work you've done. Don't enter the wish fulfilled and then 10 minutes later, be like, oh no, what if it doesn't work? What if my SP doesn't text me, or you're upset, the SP canceled plans on me and I'm so mad and blah, blah, blah. It's in those moments you're forgetting creation is finished and that you're reacting to the past, right? Your only job is to understand that in your imagination, as Neville has said in one of his lectures, it's not things from space that you're kind of seeing. You're looking at true present reality, and your job is to recognize that. Like, your inner world is actually the present fact, and this outside here, it's all old. This is old stuff, right? Even this video is old if you think about it like that. And when you realize, wait a minute, okay, if my job is to just pick the vehicle that gets me to the destination, then doesn't it make sense to find which vehicle gets me there? In other words, the most easiest way possible, the most fun and natural way. For me personally, when I began, I just said thank you. I was saying thank you and it is done. Or it is done, or it's done. Either one, it didn't matter. But I use those two, like I would just say those things out loud. But I didn't look at it from the point of, it's an affirmation. I have to say it like an affirmation. It was a reminder, right? Because when I would say thank you, it put my mind, it focused me on the end result I preferred, even though my eyes were seeing the opposite. When I said thank you to myself, when I was craving my desire, I was contemplating being the person. I literally accepted just in that moment that I received something, right? That I got my wish fulfilled. In other words, I received it. And when I said it's done, it was a reminder to me that creation is finished. A reminder to me that this whole 3D is just one of many creations that are finished. And I just happen to be experiencing it because I allowed myself to get here through my beliefs/assumptions. And if I understand that, hey, wait a minute, I'm experiencing this crappy 3D because my beliefs allowed me to experience this, but I know that by returning to preferred beliefs and preferred experiences, that's going to change who I am, which in turn is going to change the reflection in front of me. In other words, the mirror, the 3D mirror. So your job is to really understand there's no such thing as a best technique. No, there's literally none. Anyone that tells you this technique is the best, run away, right? And if I was you guys, I would just simply focus on what technique that I do within myself, right, really makes me accept and helps me accept something as a fact for just a moment, right? You don't have to hold this fact. You don't have to walk around holding this this emotion feeling, or like this conviction. You don't have to hold it, right? Of course, if that's natural, good. But majority of people are not going to be able to feel the wish fulfilled 24/7, right? Our job, as Neville has explained in many, many of his books, that is not about holding a feeling or an emotion, right? He explains it's about the returning. It's the frequency into which we return to that state of consciousness that we prefer to experience. It's that makes it stick. And the more you practice doing that, in other words, taking whatever vehicle is most enjoyable for you, then the more fun it's going to be and the faster results are going to come. And that's the beautiful part about the law. It's very personal, and that's why there's no such thing as the best technique. What worked for me, in other words, thank you and it's done, you guys might say thank you and it's done, but to you, when you say those words, neither puts you in the end result. Neither makes you actually feel thankful and grateful. Neither is going to put you in the awareness of having something and that conviction, right? And for me, it did. And that's why I got my results super quick in the beginning of my journey. You know, like for me, it was financial success and getting my first ever SP back, right? And that was done with, you know, in a very, very, very short time, right? And for those of you that watch all my videos, you know the time frame was really short. And looking back, the more I studied and the more I learned, I realized, hey, it was because I was accepting in other words, like a new belief system, a new self-concept. I was entering a new beliefs by entering the state. And because I had swapped my beliefs whenever I did that, I then unlocked the emotion which came through because of those beliefs. And as Seth teaches, it's your beliefs, it's your emotions that actually can help accelerate things, right? The positive emotions can help accelerate the reflection in your mirror, right? And, you know, that's why I tell people all the time, it's like, don't worry if you don't feel emotion, focus more on the, you know, the conviction, the knowing, the trust and the acceptance that it's done. It's who you are. That even though your eyes are not showing you what you want to have, but you're able to accept that it's done and it's going to reflect. In other words, as Neville has said in his own words, that you know that the 3D is going to conform soon. And your job is to focus on what the conforming would be like. How would that feel like, you know, and really just enjoy that in your mind, right? So when you start doing that, you realize, okay, like this is a fun process. All I got to do is experience the end result of what I want and do it again and again whenever I crave my desire, and then therefore I will have it. And whatever technique gets me there to that, in other words, it's like when you're hungry, you eat, right? And when you're done eating, you don't crave it anymore. You're not craving food. It's the same thing. When you're hungry mentally, what are you going to eat, right? And what thing appeals to you most? What dish appeals to you most? What vehicle do you want to take? And your job is to kind of satiate yourself, right? Eat. And whichever technique kind of matches your style the most, go for it. There's no right or wrong. Just have fun with it. And remember, your only goal is to practice returning to the awareness of being that person, of having that desire that you wish that you had, right? Because all of you watching right now are not living your dream lives, and that's fine, right? I'm sure you guys have some success. Sorry, I got like a random hair in my mouth. I'm sure you guys got like some random, I'm sure you guys got some success and stuff like that. And, you know, and some of you might have not even had your first success story, and that's okay. Nothing wrong with that. But I know for a fact, a lot of you watching have at least one thing you're trying to manifest. So why not test it out, right? And really be disciplined and be like, okay, I'm not going to do techniques that don't really align with me, that aren't natural with me. And instead, I'm going to figure out techniques. I'm going to test them all out and see which ones are more fun for my style of living, right? Inner conversations, pictures, videos, like any form of visual, it could be, lullaby, if that helps you. It's like there's so many techniques under the sun. And, there's a technique I shared. This was on my TikTok so long ago. Oh my God. And I call it I don't know if anyone's made it, to be honest. So if someone else, has a book and they published this like decades ago or whatever, yeah, please, let me know, because I don't want to take credit for things that I didn't create. But I just call it the doorframe technique. And early in my journey, I used to every door frame, every door has a door frame, right? And every time I would walk through a door frame of any sort, I would use the door frame as my physical reminder, my visual reminder to, okay, as soon as I cross that thing, as soon as I step my foot, so it's like, imagine there's like a full barrier, like a lasers, right? That are it's a whole screen of lasers going from the top of the door frame to the bottom. And as soon as you cross that laser, you put your foot there, that's when you accept who you want to be instead, right? So every time that I would walk through a door, I would instantly accept that I was the person who had my desire, right? And when I did that, I realized, wait a minute, this became natural. I don't even need to do it when I see a door frame anymore. Like, I would just think about my desire and then boom, naturalness. And, you know, it got to a point where I realized I don't need to do techniques anymore. I can just accept it because I know what acceptance feels like. So when you realize that, then you realize, okay, this is even easier than I thought. So don't worry, you guys will all be able to get to the point where you don't need techniques like I do. And I'm not the only one. Like, don't think I'm special. Really, I'm not special. It's just anyone who is disciplined and practices, you know, taking those vehicles to the end state, right? And you choose whatever techniques you prefer. Anyone that practices returning to a state again and again and again gets a feel for what a state feels like, right? What the preferred state would feel like. And your job is to realize eventually, and you will realize, I don't need to really use these techniques anymore because I understand that I can just accept something as a fact and still experience the same end result. Because remember, the end result is what matters the most. It's the end result, the state, that is what's going to reflect. Because remember, a state has its own beliefs, its own self-concept. That's why no books, no source material, right? I'm sure there's some modern, you know, gurus that probably wrote some stuff that will tell you this. But when I say source, I mean like the greats, the ancients, you know. None of them tell you, you know, hey, you have to fix your self-concept and find out all these hidden subconscious beliefs and do this and that, and you're broken, and until you heal yourself and fix yourself, you're not going to be able to manifest. No. What did Neville say in all his books? He told you, go to the end. Why was he telling you go to the end? Like, do you think someone with that much knowledge is going to just, you know, not realize, oh, I have to fix self-concept and blah, blah, blah? No, he talked about self-concept, but what is self-concept? Go Google it. Google self-concept definition. It's literally a set of beliefs that you believe to be true about yourself. So when you enter a state, right? So let's say you choose the vehicle of affirmation, right? And instead of just spamming them 24/7 without identifying with them at all and just hoping that you accept it one day, why not say something in your own wording that really puts you in the awareness of having it or having received it in that moment or, you know, down the road, whatever. As long as you get in the awareness of having it and being the one who has it, create something, whether it's, you know, like for me, it was thank you. I just said thank you and I felt amazing. Just even me saying it now makes me feel good. But it could be whatever, right? Say anything that you want that's going to get you there. And, you know, when you get there, you got to realize, okay, wait a minute. Now that I'm here and I'm experiencing, like, I have this conviction, I'm not really in this moment that you've accepted it, you're not really, that negative quote unquote self-concept that you guys think that I have to fix and heal, it's not affecting you in that moment. Why do you think that is? If you have to really fix yourself and there's some hidden belief sabotaging you, which doesn't exist, by the way, but if that was true, then how can you ever feel fulfillment? Like, does that make sense? That's why Neville and all the greats tell you, go to the end, just become the one who has it, just accept it. Because when you do this and you practice doing this again and again and again, that new self-concept becomes your permanent dwelling state, right? It becomes your natural dwelling state, as Neville would say. So that's the beautiful part of the law. It's like, you don't have to go back and find these inner demons and this and that. You just have to understand who you are, what you're connected to, and why it's foolish to continue looking at your world the way that you do. When you understand that you're the creator instead, and that your whole 3D is the past, and your actual true present reality is in here, then you realize it's so foolish and illogical to look out here and to be upset at what my eyes are showing me, right? And instead, you got to trust your imagination more. If you say whatever word or do whatever technique to get yourself into the wish fulfilled and it gets you there, and you experience that for just that 1 second, 2 seconds, whatever it may be, in that moment, your beliefs were perfect. They aligned to having that desire. And guess what? The more you practice returning to that, it's going to become natural, as Neville has taught. And so many others, by the way. And when that becomes natural, guess what happens? Your world changes, right? A change in feeling is a change in destiny, as you guys have heard before. So change your destiny, guys. Have fun with it. Don't look at this like, oh, I have to hunt these techniques and figure out what's the best one. It's all BS, guys. What's most natural to you? What's more enjoyable for you? If one technique is more enjoyable to you than the other, and then I don't care who's telling you you have to use the technique. And trust me, like, I even had, someone that I was working with recently that was telling me that they were working with other people and they were told, like, you have to, focus on yourself, and if you don't focus on yourself, then you'll never get SP. But like, they fail to realize that it's like, by doing that, you know, it's like they never change the story of the actual person and themselves, right? You can feel loved and, you know, in other words, prioritize and feel like you're the baddest ever and you're the most attractive or most handsome and blah, blah, blah. But guess what? If when you think of your person, you still view them as someone you're trying to get and that you miss them and you're hurting and you always go to lack when you think about them because you never once bothered to identify with the opposite. And guess what? It's all for nothing. So why not go to the end, which implies all of it's done? Why not go to the end, which implies all of it's finished, right? The more you practice returning to the state of having your desire, that state has the beliefs and self-concept, which allows you to experience that in the future, right? In the linear future. So when you realize, okay, if I return to the state that I prefer to experience as a physical reality, and I practice doing this, it's going to become who I am. And remember, we manifest who we are, not what we want. So how do you change who we are? You simply practice returning to being the person you want to be. You simply practice choosing what vehicle you want to take, what technique gets you there in the most natural and easiest and most fun way. And when you start practicing that, you realize, wait a minute, this stuff's easy. There's no magic to it. It's just it's figuring out what works for me. This is a very personal journey, guys. That's why if you watch my videos, you realize I don't sit here and I don't tell you guys, you have to do this technique. And if you have to say this, and if you don't do this, you're going to be screwed. No, guys. It's personal. I teach you guys knowledge. I give you guys understanding. And the more you understand, the easier it is to manifest. The easier it is to look at your 3D and to not be afraid and affected by it negatively. And that's why I teach you guys knowledge of the law and of the greats before me. Because without that knowledge, you can do all the techniques in the world. You're still going to feel like crap. You're not going to understand what your 3D is. You're not going to understand what you're connected to. You know, you're not going to understand who you are, right? And that's a question I ask a lot of my clients at the beginning. I ask them if I was to ask you, you know, what are you? Let me know, like just tell me. There's no right or wrong answer. I just want to know how much they know by their answer, which will tell me right away. And so far, no one has yet to even, you know, kind of say the thing that I would have said, right? And that goes to show that it's like a lot of understanding is missing, which is okay. That's what I'm here for. That's why people work with me. And my job is to kind of just give you guys that little push, is to kind of close the gap between knowledge, right? Without having to spend years and years reading and studying and taking notes and repetition and so on, right? I'm sharing with you guys my mistakes and what works for me and what doesn't, and what I found is efficient, and I'm just trying to save you guys time. So that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I intend that it did. And if you guys have any questions and stuff like that, feel free to put them down below. If this video helped you, all I ask is give me a like on this video, and that's all I need from you guys. So that being said, I love you all very much. I wish you all the best, and I will see you guys very, very soon. Take care, guys.